The local media, especially local English press, did not help the unjust situation.
BirdLife Malta and company have succeeded mostly by using a media biased in their favor. The press abuses its freedom. The local English language press treats the hunters and trappers very unfairly. Half-truths, exaggerations, and downright fabrications are the order of the day. Newspaper editors refuse to abide by moral standards. The credibility of the European Union itself is at stake. The hunters' votes were a determining factor in Malta's accession, but their quality of life has worsened.
EU Environment Commissioner Mr. Dimas has also prejudiced the case by his public declarations.
Environment Commissioner Stavros Dimas had openly declared that he intends, and we quote, to use the Malta case to send a clear message to all the other EU member states. By this declaration, Mr. Dimas put external pressure to bear on the court and seriously prejudiced the position of the European Court of Justice a priori.
You will now hear about the next threat to another traditional Maltese socio-cultural passion, that of finches capturing by net for the purpose of keeping the caught birds alive in captivity.
The end of 2008 will bring about the abolition of another deeply rooted socio-cultural tradition, the netting of finches for the purpose of keeping them alive in captivity, for their song and for use as decoys. As with spring hunting, songbird trapping was guaranteed in one of the 77 special arrangements. For the Maltese, this passion is romantically termed namra. For the Greeks, it is paithos. For the Italians, passione. For the Germans, Jagdfieber. It is the bug afflicting American hunters. Both the Maltese Prime Minister and the Malta EU Information Centre Authority had guaranteed publicly in writing that bird trapping would continue. The Federation had predicted and documented the cruel consequences of EU membership on Maltese hunters and trappers, but very few believed the Federation. Even fewer doubted the validity of the Maltese government's guarantees at that time. Now, several thousand hunters and trappers and their families are mentally and physically suffering serious consequences. The Federation has commissioned a psychiatric report about the psychological turmoil hunters and trappers had to endure in spring 2008 as a consequence of Judge Skouris's unjust ruling.
The Anti-Hunters' new campaign is to rid the Maltese countryside from hunters and trappers. They have now renamed this vile campaign under the more diplomatic title of Connect with Nature. As you will also see, the ban of spring 2008 has had devastating effects on the Maltese countryside and biodiversity.
Meanwhile, the abolitionists have a new purpose. Led by a Turkish ex-Greenpeace activist, BirdLife Malta now wants to get the hunters and trappers out of their own countryside. And the Maltese government looks all set to accommodate it. The writing is on the wall, literally. On the 30th April of 2008, parts of the Victoria Lines, a line of impressive fortifications, were defaced by foul-worded messages telling hunters to get out as the Maltese countryside no longer belongs to them. The vandalism was an exact reflection of BirdLife Malta's demands in its vile attempt to eliminate the legal local hunting and trapping traditions. BirdLife's campaign goes against the EU's mission to halt the loss of biodiversity by 2010. Hunters and trappers have always been the forerunners in natural habitat conservation and the best contributors to a flourishing biodiversity. The EU knows, and we know, that no hunters and no trappers means no biodiversity. What happened in spring 2008 proves the point. Hunters and trappers kept away from the hunting reserves of Mizip, as the place was overrun by BirdLife Malta's foreign guests and the Maltese public. The end result was a noticeable deterioration of the whole area.
All Maltese citizens have a moral duty to safeguard Malta's rural land and culture.
BirdLife have managed to create hatred for the hunters and trappers. Even school children have been brainwashed with this hatred. To counter this, the Federation organized outings in the countryside, emphasizing that hunters have a right to be there as much as other citizens. The Federation volunteers acted to protect their property and their socio-cultural traditions. However, the Hunting Federation is not the sole custodian of our land and culture. All Maltese citizens are called upon to consider it their moral duty to preserve our land and its culture. Foremost among them should be all the Maltese authorities, including His Excellency the President of Malta, parliamentarians and Maltese MEPs. Malta may be a member state of the European Union, but Malta and Maltese culture are and will always remain the responsibility of all the Maltese citizens.
Finally, we would like to stress that the unjust interim measure taken by the European Court of Justice has hurt Maltese local hunters and trappers deeply. We shall fight back. We think too that Malta's case should serve as a warning. We call upon all other EU member states to be vigilant and to prevent an all-powerful super-state from committing similar injustices under the guise of legality on their own countries and citizens. More details about this feature can be found on the relative brochure.